I think the real question is, do you gotta go fast to the theaters to see it? Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to an all-new Talkin Movies. As always, I'm your host, the real Gino Reynolds. It's late and I just got back, and today we're going to be talking about... Oh my god, don't show that again. No. I didn't see that movie. I didn't see that Sonic. No. I saw this. Sonic the Hedgehog. Today we're going to be talking about Sega's Blue Speedster, Sonic the Hedgehog, the movie. What this movie is about is you have from another world. They keep calling him an alien, even though, I guess he'd be an alien even though he's traveling through some interdimensional type of portal whenever he uses his rings. But they call him an alien. Fine, we'll call him an alien. Sonic is an alien, and he has to leave his world as a child because he's supposed to hide his powers, yet he shows them off, and some evil people want his powers. So the owl that is watching over him, she sends him through a portal, gives him a bunch of rings that can open these portals. You know, the rings like in the game, but they can open up portals. So I guess it's more like the bonus stage rings. And she says, get away from here. Stay hidden, be safe. And he's got a few different worlds that he knows he can go to, and you see later that he's been to a few, and he probably got caught. But anyway, he ends up on Earth, and he has a little cave in this small town called Green Hills, obviously, because it's a Sonic movie, right? And he feels very alone, though, because, of course... he's not human, and while he observes the people in this town, especially the other main character, James Marsden's character, who he calls like Donut Lord, the movie explains it. He observes his family and the other people around town. There's also the town crazy that says he's seen the Blue Devil before, and of course, it always turns out that the crazy person's usually right. Because, he is, because Sonic is there. Well, anyway, Sonic is watching a baseball game, some kids playing baseball game. And after everyone leaves and it's nighttime, but they conspicuously left all lights on, of course. You've seen it in the trailer where he's running around the bases. Well, it's more than just he ran around the bases and power flared. When his emotions get the better of him, his power really starts to come out, and it's kind of a little out of his control. He doesn't even really know. He just knows he's fast. He doesn't know he has this power within him, and he gets a little upset about being alone. Because they do that whole scene with him playing baseball, and he runs the bases and he hits. He scores all the way. He gets home and scores. But then he realizes no one's there for him and he's alone, so he gets upset, and then he does the power surge, and it knocks out all his power. Well, the military want to check it out, and they send the eccentric Dr. Robotnik to check it out, and that's Jim Carrey's character. We'll talk about him in a bit. So the movie is about Jim Carrey trying to capture Sonic because he wants to harness the power of Sonic because there's a quill that Sonic lost, that James Marsden's character picks up, that ends up in the hands of Dr. Robotnik, and Robotnik's able to use this quill to power, this one quill to power one of his big machines. And he realizes the potential of the power. What if he had the whole hedgehog? So that's kind of the basis of the movie. First things first, let's talk about the animation. Okay, well, this movie, it does suffer from any movie like this, like your Garfields or your Chipmunks movies. Movies like that where you've got this 3D character that's supposed to be real and fit in this world. Well, it's not terrible, but there's times where Sonic just doesn't feel like he's really there. But it's not so bad. It's not as bad as some. It's still... I will say this, and I do have to talk about the change of animation. If Sonic looked like Sonic did before the first animation, this one, this movie probably wouldn't have worked. Look, Ben Schwartz did a really good job with the voice of Sonic, and I thought he was a great pick. He definitely encapsulated the character very well. But I think if he didn't look like Sonic, it wouldn't have mattered, because you got to have that connection to the video game. I think that the right choice was made to delay the movie and change the character animation, because whether this movie was good or bad, not having that connection, it wouldn't have worked at all. You can have all the rings and sounds and everything from Sonic that you want. If Sonic doesn't look like Sonic, it's not a Sonic movie. And I think having him look like Sonic made it work really well. And then Ben Schwartz did a good job at voicing that character. That being said, again, there's just times where, I mean, of course, the animation isn't so good that you're always convinced that this is real. So there is that. And this movie also suffers a little bit from we have to bring him to our universe syndrome, or to our world. I mean, just think about any movie like Masters of the Universe or something like that, where the Smurfs did it for 2 movies till they finally took it back to Smurfland. People want to see the stories in the world of the video games, right? If we're talking about a video game adaptation, I mean, and yes, at the first you do get a little bit of the Green Hill Zone, right? But that's the world that Sonic has to escape, and then we're on Earth the entire time. Now, granted, I think in later movies, if they do get made, they'll go to these places, but here it's like, well, we need to bring him to Earth, and while I would have rather, I mean, honestly, I would have rather had them be in their own world. And I'm kind of hoping Illumination takes notice of this when they're making their Super Mario movie. Don't bring them to Earth. We don't, I mean, yes, you can have them start in New York as plumbers, but bring them to the Mushroom Kingdom. I just want to see them in their own world, interacting in their own world with their own people, right? With their own creatures, with their own castles and or whatever. Right, and that's what this movie. While I was fine with it, it just became somewhat of it's just a fish out of water type story, because you got Sonic. Granted, he's been on Earth a while, and he's learned a lot of the stuff. He still had to learn about things like friendship. So the movie does have that, and I'm not a big fan of that. That being said, I thought it was entertaining enough, him being the fish out of water. In different places, because he's never really got to do anything. They talk about bucket lists in this movie, where Sonic's like, fine, I need to make a bucket list, and his bucket list is like a mile long. And they try to make the best of it, trying to, being that he's only supposed to be on Earth for one more day, because the governments are, they kind of know where he's at, or at least around where he's at, and he has to escape to boring Mushroom World. And I don't know if that was a jab at Mario. Part of me thinks it was, because his plan to be totally safe is he's going to escape to a world that's just full of mushrooms, and that to me says I thought it was a little jab at Super Mario Brothers. If it wasn't, it's too much of a coincidence, I think. But so anyway. But the overall story, I was entertained enough. It's about Sonic wanting to find friends. James Marsden's character kind of feels stuck in life because he's in this, podunk town. He wants to be a real cop. He wants to save people, and he wants to know if someone's in trouble, that he can step up and be a real cop. And of course, going on the adventure with Sonic, he's able to, live that dream. Okay, so let's talk about Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey's Robotnik. First of all, I'm going to say this. In the trailer where you see Jim Carrey bald and having the mustache of Robotnik, yeah, I'm sorry. That's the end of the movie, pretty much, or at least not until the mid-credit scene, of course. That's the end of the movie, which I hate it when they do that in trailers. But okay, Jim Carrey as Robotnik. I enjoyed him for the most part. There were times that he got a bit too Jim Carrey, where he got a little too slapsticky. Now, I'm not saying I don't enjoy seeing Jim Carrey do those things, but when you want to see someone lose themselves in a character, you don't want to see the actor come out, right? And I just feel like the Jim Carrey came out a little too much. I thought he was still entertaining enough, but I loved it when he was just kind of getting in other characters' faces, because he's very I'm better than you in the performance. His character is just like I've done more in my life before I was even a toddler that you've done in your whole life. I kind of says that to James Marsden's character. He's like, you've done nothing and I've done everything before I was 2. So I enjoyed that stuff, but there was just like one scene where he's doing research on the quill and he's dancing around his big truck, and it's just very slapstick Jim Carrey. There's one where he almost goes into his Dumb and Dumber tap dance. It's not really a tap dance. He's playing like he's trying to be like Hick, and he's playing like a jug, and it was very Dumb and Dumber. Does it ruin the movie? No. I want to see him go full Dr. Robotnik if they do another one. And of course, again, they teased that his character, where he ends up in the movie, you can tell he's going to go a little crazy. He's already crazy enough, but isolation is something that isn't going to sit too well with that character. So I am curious. I am curious what they're going to do with him if they make another one. All in all, the story isn't bad. I thought the movie could have used a little more action. I'm not saying that stuff isn't going on, but I just think it could have used like another big action set piece. I mean, you've pretty much seen a little bit of most of the action in the trailers. I would have liked to have seen some more stuff. At least one more big action set piece might have been kind of nice. Like one more battle between Robotnik and Sonic. But that being said, being that Sonic doesn't really know he has these powers other than speed, the movie is about him discovering them and then using them for good. I feel, I guess maybe if they would have done something else, they would have had to introduce that earlier. Maybe it wouldn't have worked. I don't know. I was entertained enough by when the action happened. I just could have used a little bit more of it. Now, will your kiddos enjoy it? I'm gonna bring back a segment I used to do when I was on TV, because as a reviewer, you get a lot of criticism when you're talking about kids' movies, because especially if you really rip into one. So I'm bringing back an old segment that I used to do on TV called Real Eyes of a Child. And yes, that is me. I don't know exactly how old, probably 7 or 8, maybe something like that. More hair up here, less here. And here's the thing. While there are parts of this movie that, like some of the jokes and things like that, they make a fart joke and there's just little things like that. A lot of the humor worked. Some of it didn't. But will your kids like this movie? I'm going to say yes. Kids are going to like this movie. Again, I think, like my son my son, when he saw the first trailer, he hated it because, again, he hated the way Sonic looked. And then he saw the new trailer. He's like, he looks more like Sonic, and he wants to go see it, and we're going to be going to see it next week. And I'm actually kind of glad I fairly enjoyed it. So, so he'll probably, I'll get to enjoy it with him. And maybe I'll enjoy it even more because I think he'll enjoy it. So do I think the kiddos are going to enjoy it? For the most part, there is a few like character building scenes that kids might be a little bored in. When it starts talking about, friendship and stuff like that, kids might be just a little bored, but all in all, I think the kids are going to enjoy the action. They're going to enjoy the humor, at least most of the humor of Sonic. So as a kids movie, I think, granted, yes, most adults might get mild entertainment out of this one. I don't think any adult's going to be like, wow, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. They'll get mild enjoyment out of it. I think the kiddos are going to get the most enjoyment out of this one, just because of some of the humor and the fact that you've got a Sonic that looks like Sonic. And, kids are going to get introduced to Jim Carrey's humor in this a little bit. Now, you got to look at it like that, too. I guess, kids aren't going to really know who Jim Carrey is. I grew up with him, right, on In Living Color and stuff like that. And, of course, like Ace Ventura and Dumb and Dumber. And so, I mean, Jim Carrey was my generation. Now he's going to be introduced to a new generation, I think. And is that a totally bad thing? Not really. But yeah, I think the kids are going to get more out of this than the adults. That being said, I think the adults, it's not going to be one of those kids movies where the adults are going to hate sitting through every second of it. I think they're going to both get some enjoyment out of it. So anyway, I wouldn't say you gotta go fast to the theaters to go see it. I'm not going to say I would make it a rental at best or something like that. I think if you went to the theaters, you're not going to be overly disappointed. Don't expect to get the video game on screen 100%. Of course you're not going to get that. But you are going to get some decent elements of it, especially from Sonic. That's going to be all for this edition of Talkin Movies. If you like what you've heard here, please subscribe to the Real Gino YouTube channel. Like this video. If you have anything to say about Sonic the Hedgehog the movie, please feel free to leave a comment in the section below. Till next time, I'm your host, the Real Gino, Gino Reynolds. See you later.